Hey, this is me building and strategizing a $2 million a year business in public. Last month, I made 128 grand in profit. Next month, I want to hit 167. So how this is going to work is I'm going to start off by doing just a little bit of Q&A. Then we're going to talk some growth stats. And then finally, we're going to cover some live strategy. I've made some progress since the last update. So let me just scroll all the way down to the bottom of this. We are certainly accumulating these daily updates. And move my mic out of the way. We can start with some QA. So I'm currently in Halifax. I've changed the setup quite a bit. You'll probably notice that the camera's looking a little bit different, lighting and so on and so forth. Being in any new place and trying to reproduce your studio is wild, I gotta say. And yeah, I guess because I'm not actually usually here, I have to do, sort of a little reset. Okay, great. So let's just do a couple of questions and answers. I mean, dude, the channel has blown up in the last 24 hours. Crazy. Check this out. This is more or less the same thing that happened with my main channel. If I just posted every single day for long enough and just consistently provided value, yeah, I mean, we're already up to 3,000 plus views every 48 hours, which is crazy. So let's scroll down here. Let's reward the people that have been posting and asking questions consistently. The first is Hazen. Hopefully I'm saying your name right, man. Hey, Nick, I'm now 18 and I'm a full stack web developer, so I've experience in APIs and auth, etc. Also, I know marketing theory. I'm now confused which business model to choose. Marketing agency, because the competition's so high. AI automation agency, because you need to educate the people in the Arab world. I guess you're based in, Saudi Arabia, right? And no one's talking about this stuff. Do you think it's better to be first at it and start building my personal brand as an AI expert? I have 4 to 5 months to make something work before the university starts. So if you don't mind giving me your advice, let me know what you do if you were in my place. Thanks. Yeah, so first of all, man, I think this is a great question. Okay, if I were you, and if I were doing it for the long term, I'd just ask myself, where is everything going? And to be blunt, where everything is going is, AI and automation anyway, especially over the course of the next half decade or so. What's going to happen after that? Basically anybody's guess. But, if I could give you my honest advice, just off the top of my head, it would be, I've found the most success with this business model here. And having also done this business model 4 times, I would always choose this. The main reason why is because there's just so much more leverage. There are oodles. I haven't used that word in a while, but there are oodles more leverage in AI and automation than there are in traditional marketing agencies. So what do I mean by that? Let's just scroll up over here. I have no room to actually do my typical writing stuff, so it's going to be kind of annoying. I might just buy a desk and just give it to my Airbnb guy after. Would be pretty interesting. If I just go marketing agency versus AI automation agency, one is sort of on the, I don't know, it's kind of on the decline, and it's been on the decline. This business model came out with Ty Lopez's SMMA, which started back in, definitely not when he was 6 years old. Here in my garage. When? So I guess that was 2015, right? So that's about 11 years ago. So 2015-ish. And so, initially, actually it kind of looked like this initially, to be honest. Initially there was a little bit of traction, and then it peaked, I want to say probably 2017, 2018. Kind of 2019, it was already on the way down. 2021, just like any hype bubble or trend, right? These are definitely going to be, these are definitely going to go down over time in everything. I mean, there's more saturation in the space, which I know I talk about being a positive, but if you just zoom out a little bit, you want to make a big marketing agency, saturation is very important to note. There are more tools for business owners. And these are SaaS products that usually take a while to get up and running, but once they get up and running, they actually just inherently solve a lot of the issues that marketing agencies used to do. Stuff like scheduled posting, stuff like brand strategy, marketing strategy, that sort of stuff. And then I personally think there's a lower ticket. So I don't think you can have anywhere near as much of a high ticket price as you can with AI automation. AI automation, on the other hand, kind of think about it, this whole business model, it's kind of right around 2022, 2021, 2022. I want to say when ChatGPT came out, okay? And so when ChatGPT came out, there's this massive spike. I don't even think we're I think it's kind of like this. 2022, right? 2025 right now, man. I think we're on the way up. I think realistically, there's going to be a peak somewhere over here, which might be like 2027, 2028. Let's say 2028. This is my prediction as somebody that's in the industry. I think that basically this over here is AI agents. And I think that AI agents are just going to lead to like almost like a doubling of the market and demand and the prices you can charge and stuff like that. And then after AI agents get sufficiently advanced and good, over the course of the next 5 or so years, then demand for our services will go down a little bit. I have a vacuum just in the background. Hopefully you guys can hear this. If not, I'll try and cut it out as best I can. So, just kind of mapping, right? Like where do you want to be, man? If you're starting over here, do you want to be jumping on something that's going down? Or do you want to be jumping on something that's going up? You can think about Saudi Arabia as basically being like a delayed version of this graph, to be honest. It's kind of like this. So if anything, you're going to have like a couple additional years and you'll be able to ride the wave on the way up, more so than, maybe some people in the West, for instance. So I definitely do that if I were in your place, 100%. Okay, apold-xw3il says, hey, Nick, I'm starting off my AA agency, starting off small in the chatbots and voice agent space. And to be honest, chatbots seem like the wrong thing to focus on. I'd love to know your thoughts. Great question. I was always negative, like anti-chatbots up until very recently. I think the technology has just been pretty crappy and too flexible for it to actually have any sort of like real business world utility. But things have been changing over the course of the last 6 months or so since I started saying stuff like that. So we're now at the point where I think a chatbot can realistically set meetings at like 90 to 95% the quality that a human being could. I can actually see their use and their value, specifically in high volume lead nurturing or booking applications. So I don't really think it's necessarily a bad thing anymore. I would just keep in mind that whatever sort of chatbot application that you're going to be selling is more or less going to look like this. Like AI is sort of on this paradigm of like, if you think about like, okay, let me just actually change what I'm going to do here. If you think about like technology, okay, technology exists on the spectrum of flexibility to reliability. Okay. So this is like traditional quote unquote automation. Traditional automations are like new trigger, we get a webhook in and we update a CRM row or whatever. This is very reliable because we're just using API calls. Okay. This is like AI. AI typically trades off reliability for flexibility. Instead of saying update the specific record in the CRM which has this ID, you actually just say, hey, AI, can you update the record of the CRM that this matches? And it'll do like, I don't know. In terms of reliability, this is like 100%. And actually, this is like, I don't know, 80% or so. So it actually still does like pretty good, right? It's pretty reliable, but it's a lot more flexible. And so there's always going to be a trade-off, right? I think chatbots are very much like, I don't know, like if we could conceptualize chatbots, they'd be like way over here. They're even less reliable, but they're a lot more flexible and they allow you to have like real conversations. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, to make a long story short, I know I kind of butchered this explanation, but to make a long story short, chatbots are great. They're just very flexible. And so when a client that doesn't understand this technology sees the output of a chatbot and they don't really like it, they're gonna be like, hey, can you change the outputs of this chatbot to be more like this? And they think that you have total control over it. You don't actually have total control over it, which is kind of a pain in the ass. So like, constantly adjusting this chatbot to try and be in line with what the customer or client wants, it can be pretty tricky in my experience. I've sold a couple of these and they just haven't really gone super well because of that. Now, I'm not saying that you can't. I'm saying that they are gaining in reliability. They're getting better and better every day. So maybe this is something that you start now. You don't expect to see a ton of money at over the course of the next couple of months. But as the chatbot wave sort of picks up, you take full advantage of it and you start building more reliable and more robust chatbots. Okay. That's kind of my take on it. That's probably what I would do. Okay, great. Let's do one more. Let's do Luke's, just because he complimented me at the beginning. Thank you, Luke. I appreciate it. With this channel, your main channel, Makerscope videos, I feel like you're my roommate with the amount I hear your voice. A few videos back, you were considering building your Upwork AI agent on ChatGPT's GPT service. Have you used GPTs before in any cases or client jobs? Yes, I have. I always wonder whether it'd be a strong alternative in Make rather than using the create a completion and filling it up with 10 plus assistant user items. From memory, I can't think of any video you used it in. I haven't. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Yeah, so like basically what you're doing is you're doing some sort of RAG, really. Like you are uploading some sort of file and then you're just running a retrieval augmented generation approach over the data set. But RAG isn't perfect. And to be honest, I find that the quality of outputs enabled by RAG tend to be a lot lower on a small data set versus if you just like load that whole data set into the training prompt, into the context to the model. So usually what I do now is I just load like, if I have like a little PDF that's a few pages, an application that I previously would have either created a GPT for or used assistance for or tried to build my own Pinecone RAG application for or whatever, I'll now just like copy and paste it, stick it in the prompt. The context window of the prompts are long enough and high quality enough that you can actually get away with that. And then now all of this is immediately accessible to the model. It's not like before where, like you run into context limit issues. And so because of that, you're forced to run RAG over a data set. So you're not seeing a lot of it just because this is a very temporary technology and it wasn't really required. Now, am I saying that like RAG itself is a temporary technology? Like, no, I think there's utility in the approach, but we are quickly going to run to the point where like RAG is no longer required. So I'm going to do a couple of videos just because I have a lot of people asking, hey, Nick, RAG, 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 RAG. And I'm going to make sure people understand what it is, but I'm probably not going to focus too much on it just because I see it as sort of having an expiration date. And from my perspective, I want to produce evergreen content as much as possible, just because I think the value of that evergreen content over a 10 or 15 year time scale, well, maybe 5 to 10 year time scale, is so much more than if I were to produce something in the middle of a hype cycle that ended up getting me a lot of followers initially, but didn't end up getting me a lot of followers later. But yeah, that's more or less it. I don't think it's a strong alternative in Make. And it's, kind of like GPT service plus assistance. Same sort of vibe. Also, I was considering monetizing the GPT, but as we saw in that other video where I was doing that strategy, we can't really monetize the GPT. So there was just like no quick and easy one-click way. I thought instead, screw it. I'm doing N8N videos now. Might as well make like an N8N agent and then offer that to people. I was also considering just making like a publicly available chat endpoint and then charging people per usage. But then I realized, you know what? I don't really want to be the guy selling like a SaaS app. That has a whole host of issues alongside it as well. I have to make sure like the app is maintainable. As it scales with user requests, I have to make sure it's good. I have to like make adjustments to it. I was like, screw it. I'm just going to sell people the template and I'm going to make it all of their responsibility. I'm just going to sell it for less money. That was sort of my idea back there. So yeah, hopefully that provides some context. Hey man, that's awesome. Quam says, he started his own version of daily updates, helping me stay productive, knowing I have to show up and give YouTube an update. Okay, maybe I'll answer this one question too, because this is really interesting. Question, how do you plan your time when it comes to planning and filming videos for your main channel? Wanting to understand how you find the balance with running your agency, coaching, planning content, and filming it. I'm struggling to balance content on my main channel, fulfilling for my agency clients, and scaling my coaching business. Would be great to see how you plan and balance it all. I'll be honest, it's a lot of work. Yeah, I'm starting to run into, I think, the upper limits of what's realistically capable with just one person. At least at the like level of systematization that I've done. I'm catching myself running into situations where I'm like, there has to be a better way to do this, but I don't have the time to figure that out. And I have a lot of things on my plate, so I just have to do it, even at this like less effective level. So I ran into the same issue with my agency, where I started being like, there has to be more leveraged ways of doing the same work without me having to hire an additional team member. If you think about it pragmatically, I'm at just about $2 million a year right now in profit. Like I'm a little bit lower, obviously, but coming up on that. And I think that might actually be like a reasonable, like for somebody that's trying to juggle like the agency model, which is less profitable per unit time, my main channel, and then a bunch of these other content production mechanisms. Like I think that might be about the upper limit in terms of what one person is capable of doing, even with my really good time management. So yeah, that's just to give you some behind the scenes into how all that stuff's going and how I feel about it. In terms of how I personally juggle, planning and filming the videos, I typically will have some sort of outline. I always start with the idea. So the title and like the thumbnail. Usually people will start the other way around. They'll try and figure out they'll try and just say, okay, like I want to do something, so I'm going to record a video on it, which is fine. That's kind of how I started. But nowadays you start with the title and then the thumbnail, because those are the two big determinants that result in the performance of the video. So, I will either source ideas for my videos from my YouTube comments using the YouTube comment scraper. It's a video that I published, I don't know, maybe like a month and a half ago. Feel free to check that out if you want. Or basically I always ask people, hey, can you give me some ideas? Or do you have any suggestions for content I need to produce? And if they do, then my YouTube scraper will actually just scrape it and then add it to my database. And now I have like a bunch of content ideas. I then take those and I convert them into like content titles, basically, just based off a few templates, based off of my understanding of what works well on YouTube after this point. And then from there, I'll usually like think through like a thumbnail idea. Although, I don't like overthink my thumbnail ideas. I do think the content's a little bit more important than spending all day trying to design a picture of yourself raising your eyebrow and going like this. If you saw my most recent video on my main channel, like I left like a 2-minute clip in the end where I was just like making a bunch of silly ass faces to the camera. It was so funny. Completely forgot about that. So, I focus more on just like the production, but yeah, that's how I do that's how I plan, I guess, logistically the main channel videos. That's how I get them into the pipeline. And then the filming is usually pretty straightforward. I'll just turn on the camera and I'll just yap for like an hour or two. Sometimes I have like a strict outline where it's like point one, point two, point three, point four. Other times now I'm trying to just use my little tablet, my pen, because it's a lot more time efficient for me. So I just yap on and I like draw on stuff. This avoids me having to go into extra production where like in post I'll have to like make little diagrams and crap like that. I just don't really want to have to hire an editor. I want to keep it as minimal as possible. So that's how I do that work. And then in terms of planning my time, man, I've experimented with like 1,000,001 different approaches for this, where like I have like Wednesdays and Fridays be like my agency client days. Like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll have like my content production days. But nowadays, I just try and do everything every day. So what I mean by that is I'll schedule smaller bits of work, but I'll make sure I do them daily. This is sort of like the thing I wish that I'd done back in school, where teachers are like, make sure to study every day. And then you just said, no, I'm not going to do that. And then you crammed everything 5 minutes before the exam. This is sort of the thing that I wish I did back then, but I'm really starting to understand now. When you make something a daily habit, it tends to build momentum a lot faster. So like, for instance, I'll do these daily updates every day. During these daily updates, I'll do some Q&A. I'll, check out my brand stats. This is all stuff I was going to do anyway. And then I'll usually do some live strategizing, work through some problem that's currently rucking around my head live. So this is all time that I was going to spend anyway doing basically the same thing. I'm just going to record a video of it, which obviously makes it a little bit more effective. And then, yeah, just in terms of like the agency stuff, I usually have 12 to 2 p.m. PT Slack availability. So I just like to be on my computer around that time, obviously, because if a client needs me or something, I want to provide the illusion of omnipresence, of being there 24/7. So hope that helps. Hope that provides a little bit of context. Really appreciate all the great questions I've got over the course of the last literally 24 hours or so. And I found this one pretty funny. Mo said bro's voice does not match his face. I'm going to take that as a compliment. But I got a really funny comment on one of my first Facebook posts, like back when I was in actually first year of college. Some guy, I don't know, I guess I just started working out or whatever. So I was starting to get buffer and stuff. And the comments were like, the face of a boy, but the body of a man. And that's kind of how I feel. That's how I took that comment anyway. Cool. So let's just do some real quick brand stats. And then let's wrap up this puppy. So in terms of how much we've grown over the course of the last 24 hours, let's do my daily updates first. My daily updates have popped off. We're at 522 now. Was I really at 340? Seriously? I actually gained 200 in 24 hours? That's crazy, man. That's crazy. My main Instagram, I'm calling it main Instagram now because of that strategy that I unveiled yesterday. So I'm going to be posting on a bunch of other accounts, and it's probably going to make the daily updates a little more boring. 887 in the last 24 hours, and then my main YouTube channel. Did I do that right? No, I didn't. My main YouTube channel is 51,789. Apparently, my channel is 4 years old. So I spent 3 years of that doing nothing with it. So I gained 387 in the last 24 hours on my YouTube. So yeah, things are continuing to go up, obviously. This is catching up for sure. I mean, we're already over a third of that. When I started, we were 1/40th, and now I'm at, over a third. Just a matter of time before this passes, in my humble opinion. So we'll keep that going. And then I want to just unveil this brilliant idea that I had while I was on my flight yesterday. Sitting down, thinking about this shit. 5 hours. Here's my idea. You know how one of the tasks yesterday was for Maker School, right? Basically, I needed to figure out a bunch of Maker School templates that I could add. Well, I said, screw that. Instead, what you get in month 6 is once you make it to 6 months in my program, meaning that, you'll have paid me a reasonable sum of money at that point. 6 times 60 is about $360, right? You get a 15-minute call with me. You get to solve. You bring one problem, and then I give you one solution. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Nick, that's crazy. How the hell are you going to offer 15-minute consults to everybody that makes it through Maker School? Well, hear me out. The reason why I think this is worth it is because mathematically, I'm probably only going to be getting 30 to 40 bookings every month. That's about one call a day. That's 15 minutes. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to front load or backload it on Fridays. And then I'm going to do this Alex Hormozy calendar scheduling mechanism where I offer the latest slot and then the next latest and then the next, just all my way, work my way down. But let me run you through the math really quickly. We have 1,200 members right now. Okay. I gained that over about 6 months now, right? Which means on average, which isn't entirely true, I've gained 200 members a month. We have a churn of, at the moment, 19% approximately, which is lower than it was before, which is nice. Meaning, basically, average member lasts 5 months, okay? Which means that the 6 month, something like, 70 members out of the 200 members make it to month 6 on average, right? Now, here's the cool thing. Of the 70 members or so that make it, they tend to be substantially more motivated. They also tend to be substantially more accountable, and they tend to have more money because they've followed the program. They've been able to make the investment in themselves and the program. They've obviously seen some result. So of these 70 members, the majority of them are going to have some sort of accomplishment. They're going to be more likely to have some sort of liquid capital available. So the benefit here, actually, I get to quadruple dip. Man, I was thinking about this on that flight, and I was like, this is freaking brilliant. So the benefit here is, okay, if we're honest, not everybody's going to book the 15 minutes realistically. So I'm saying, 30 to 40 of these 70 will book because, a lot of people just don't book, whatever. They don't want to, they're nervous, they don't have the time, whatever. So 30 to 40 of these members will. Of these 30 to 40, because they had a call with me and I gave them a ton of value, some percentage will upsell. Self-upsell into Make Money with Make, or eventually my high ticket. I don't know what that looks like. I'm willing to bet at least 10% because, we'll have some FaceTime. They'll like what they hear. I'll be part of their journey. So right off the bat, this call, which will take me 15 minutes, which is still 15, it's like a quarter of an hour, right? I think that's a fair amount of time. If I'm charging over $1,000 for my hour, this is like at least $250 of value that I'm giving people, if not substantially more since I'm on the way up and my time demands are so leveraged now. But if I can get 3 out of the people that I'm doing this, right, quarter of an hour times 30 is 30 over 4, 15 over 2, or 7.5 hours. Well, if I can spend 7.5 hours a month, but then I can convert this, let's say 4 people, then I can do 1,382 a year. Well, now this is over $6,000. So I'm basically getting over $6,000, and that's just for Make Money with Make. And if you take into account my high ticket offer, I think realistically it'll be 7.5 hours for greater than 15K when I launch that. So now I'm actually still making like $2,000 an hour on this. But check this out. This is even cooler. Now people will say, hey, I got a call with Nick. So that's going to incentivize people to make it to month 6, which is going to decrease my churn because having a call with me is what a lot of people want to do, right? So now we have decreased churn because there's this big prize. And then I make my calls contingent. Basically, in order to book a call, you have to click a little box that says, hey, I may use this as content for my channel, which people love because now they think, oh man, what if I'm on Nick's channel and it's growing and has all these views? I could really quickly make it big because of this. So I have that as my offer. And then what I end up doing is I use all of these for my reels that I'm trying to get a bunch of content for, that I was doing the strategy idea for yesterday. So the call booking requires that you accept I can use this for content, which is just crazy. So now I get way more content, which is sweet. And now, right, every time I get one of these calls, I can do it on channel 1, channel 2, and it's going to be a different person, basically, on every little clip that I have. So it's going to seem as if I've done way more calls, as if I've just done way more content. If I'm always talking to a different person, basically, on every little reel that I make, if you combine that with all the other content that I have available for short form chop ups and stuff, if you combine that with all the other stuff that I'm going to do, podcasts and interviews and stuff like that, I'm going to have hyper mega leverage content production. They'll be able to spit out at least 150 pieces a month. At least, probably much more than that. So this does all those things. This increases my total money. It decreases churn. And it adds my content. So I have more content. Plus, it'll be fun. I love solving problems for people. And I love solving problems specifically for people that push themselves and continue to grow. It's one thing if you get asked the same sort of like trivial questions time and time again from people that like don't actually take the action. And they kind of run into these roadblocks and stuff, which is, to be fair, just it's part of the gig, right? Sometimes you have to help a person solve the same problem multiple times before it really sticks. And I get that. But it's another thing entirely if you can answer questions from people that are growing a business, 5K, 10K, 20K, 30K, people that are obviously on the up and up and that have been in your program for long enough to understand that accountability and consistency and daily habits is a part of it. I have no doubt in my mind, a lot of the people I'm going to have calls with, if I look back in a year, they're going to be making 50 to 100K a month. How cool would it be to have a network of people like that? The cost for me is zero. I actually make money. And then I get to form all these great relationships with people all over the world while also producing a massive content funnel. So I'm not going to offer anything else. I'm only going to offer this one thing. It's basically going to be like, congrats, you made it to month 6. Here's a call booking link. Now hang out with Nick for 15 minutes. Bring a problem you're struggling from. He's going to solve it. And just keep in mind that this is going to be recorded because Nick may use this as content at some point in the future. That's kind of the trade-off that you're making for getting 15 minutes on the calendar. I think this is probably one of the more brilliant strategies I've come up with. I'm convinced that this is it's going to be one of those strokes of genius where I look back in 6 months and I'll be like, damn, I'm really stoked that I did. That is great thinking, man. So I don't know how, the people watching this might be able to copy and paste this into their own business, but yeah, I think that that's going to be huge. So one of my tasks for today is just to set that up and set up my calendar, set up a day, set up the Alex Hormozy reverse calendar booking thing where basically you just offer one slot at the end of your day. The second that books up, you offer another slot that's available right before that. Second that frees up, you offer one more slot that's available before that. And in that way, you basically always just have one giant, chunk of calls essentially. I'm super fired up, man. It's gonna be really cool. So that is the daily update for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the strategy. You enjoyed my new cute little studio thing with the nice art on this side and the closet over here. And I didn't yap your ear off too much. Thank you very much for joining, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Cheers.